This podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. Your San Diego County Toyota dealers. We've got what it takes. Fix Auto. Corky's Pest Control. And Lolita's Family of Restaurants.
Hey there, sports fans. Christian Pedersen, Coach Tom DeMeo. Welcome to Laxcast. We are here breaking down all things San Diego high school lacrosse. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm ready. We got a big show. We got some huge games to talk about.
Lots going on.
Let's start with our game ball segment. A little shout out for what has happened the previous week leading up to this. First one I want to give out: LCC game ball to each and every one of the Mavericks for taking down Poway. Coach, I feel like this is pretty big. Am I over-exaggerating, or is this a huge win?
No, I mean, I think a few years ago you would have thought that, it was sort of LCC's, they had always won that game, I think, years back. But Poway has been really strong the past couple of years. And even I thought Poway would come out in the close game. But Coach Cooper and the LCC boys, they got a big lead at one point, like 3 goals in the fourth quarter, and they held on to it. So it was a pretty good game.
The sport can get a little white knuckle at times. So when you're getting close down there and goals start happening, you're like, oh, clock just run out. But as we said, LCC, that's a big time. That's a top 5 team playing another top 5 team. So maybe not a huge upset of any sort, but it's always great seeing a little bit of a change in the guards. It's not just, oh, they won Open Division last year, they're still rolling. Yeah,
I think anytime, we said it was going to be a close game last week, and it was, and I'm sure they'll see each other again.
Oh, absolutely. That's the great part about this sport of it's not limited to, oh, we'll play them once, maybe this year, maybe next year. We're going to play the best we can get our hands on, so we're going to get big matchups all the time. Staying up in the North County, El Camino, the Wildcats get a game ball for taking down Canyon Crest. Coach, this is another week where we're talking about the game growing into new sectors and new teams getting big wins.
Yeah, I mean, El Camino beating Canyon Crest, which has been around for a really long time. They've been around for probably 10 years as a program. So those are the kind of wins those schools want. Those are great wins for them. And Canyon Crest was coming off a win over Rancho Bernardo, which was a big win for them. And so to see that happen, it's great for the sport.
And this is all just screams parity is starting to become a real thing. It's not as top heavy as it used to be. There is still that divide of Open Division and everyone else, but with each one of these new big wins, you sort of start thinking, hey, this could be the start of something new. Let's keep speaking of new. Let's give out a game ball to Hoover High School for beating Mira Mesa, first win in program history for the Hoover boys. So okay, not quite Open Division again, but how good is it to see the game growing like this?
Well, you got to start somewhere, right? And so your first program win is your first program win, and I've been there.
What was your first win as a head coach?
We beat Natick High School in Massachusetts, and it was a game that Bay State was a big league rival in all sports, and we were coming off an 0-16 season, 1 year off of JV, and we had our first Bay State League game we won, so that was a big deal for our guys. Yeah.
I see it in your eyes that you can still remember that one pretty vividly. A lot of wins, though, for you between then and now. But yeah, so congratulations to Hoover, and folks, if you want to learn a little bit more about this Hoover team, we're going to actually have them on our television show this Wednesday night on Fox Sports San Diego. They're going to be featured in our Building Character segment because, Coach, not one of these kids or coaches had ever picked up a stick before January.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Good for them.
And now they're getting wins. Let's keep going. Coronado, you get a game ball for beating La Jolla. This one was a pretty exciting game. You said this was kind of the first time that La Jolla has ever played Coronado close.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, Coronado, they were league before last year when La Jolla dropped down. They were league rivals for a really long time, and from my recollection, it was always a blowout. And this game was 5-3 at half, and I think maybe 7-4 going into the fourth. So La Jolla was pretty excited. And that's a sign, again, of parity. And, Coronado pulled away in the end, and that's sometimes what happens in those games. But, it was good for both teams.
It's one of those learning experiences where you grow from it if you're La Jolla, saying, hey, we're not quite there yet, but we're still building. It's not a step backwards by any means.
Yeah, I mean, we said in our first segment, La Jolla is going to contend in whether it's Division I or possibly the Open Division. They're right on the balance there, and that game, to me, was proof that they're in that mix.
Absolutely, although I feel like if you're still building, you don't want to make that jump up to Open Division too quickly. Let's keep it going. Our last guys game ball out to the University City Centurions for beating Green, Helix. Coach, not everything, as we said, is about Division I and Open Division. The Centurions, they're slowly building up, looking like they could be a team in Division II that could make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that every week, is the growth of the game, and having those schools playing lacrosse is really important to lacrosse in San Diego. So.
And a win is a win. You can't take away from that. It's hard to win a varsity level game in this sport, no matter who you are or who you're playing. Let's jump over to the girls' side now. Big time game ball, not just for one game, but for a couple games in a row now. Otay Ranch, the Mustangs, I believe, is their mascot. 7 wins in a row. Their only loss of the season was a 1 loss to San Marcos, the first game of the year. They're going to be taking on Cathedral later this week. Now, that will probably end with a Cathedral win, but the question is, I want to give a game ball to them, but then also kind of ask you, how much stock do you put in them being sort of a litmus test for the South Bay girls game starting to grow into the legitimate areas?
I think it's huge. I mean, just going through, some of the teams they beat and in their 1 loss to a 1-goal, I think it was a 1-goal game with San Marcos, who's a good team. I've seen them play, and I think, I'd be interested to see. It's like you said, Cathedral might be a stretch. It's a little top heavy there on the girls' side, but I think it's great for them, and I look forward to seeing them continue to grow.
So the kind of thing that if we're sitting here next week talking about if they only lost by 3 or 4, we could start saying that Otay Ranch is a legitimate team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, a lot of times with a lot of these programs, they have good coaching, and that's paying off. And, the girls are obviously reacting to it. So that's great for them and great for the South Bay.
Want to give a couple more game balls out on the girls' side. We'll get through these kind of quickly. Want to give one to Kylie Krager and Mission Bay for getting a win over Patrick Henry. Mission Bay is a school that it's only their second year, I believe, of having a program. So every single win that piles up for them is a step in the right direction. And finally, game ball to La Costa Canyon for dismantling Carlsbad. This one was a 12-point win.
Yeah.
LCC, and you can watch the highlights of it on our website. Coach, how impressed are you by the girls' side of this?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bunch of games. I saw the highlights actually of that game, and they did dismantle them pretty good. And I believe they lost early in the year to La Jolla, so sort of avenging that. And it's been great to see the girls' teams reacting and getting better as programs.
Yeah, instilling their dominance when you can beat up on a fellow top 10 team right there, really separating yourselves. So those are our game balls for the week. If you play hard, compete hard, you can win a game ball too next week. Coach, let's transition into our discussion question for this episode. This is kind of a question that I want to pose on behalf of newer coaches or parents that are still helping their kid grow in the game. When it comes to new players, kids that are just getting exposed to lacrosse, what's the first step? Is it teaching the X's and O's of take this step, hold your stick this way, hold it that way, or is it teaching the mentality of play hard on defense? Here's who you need to look for. Look for your open man. Be a team player. Where do you gauge it? What's the important step?
I don't even know if it's really close. When a player first starts out, it's really important they have fun. That's and you can teach them the fundamentals as they have fun playing, but it's essential when you have a player that can't cradle, can't catch, can barely throw. He's going to be down on himself no matter how. A lot of times these kids are good at other sports, and when they go home, you want them to say, "I want to go back and do that again. It was fun." And that's not playing duck, duck, goose or anything like that, but it's definitely challenging them to learn and get to know the kid a little bit. So I think having fun along with some basic fundamentals is important.
So you'll take someone with heart over someone who is a natural that gravitates immediately towards being able to cradle and run and score.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to. You gotta want to do it. You gotta love to do it, and to be able. Lacrosse is a sport that a lot of kids don't grow up bred to play, and they have to learn it after they've been successful in other sports, especially out here. And they show up and they can't cradle and they can't catch, and that can be frustrating. So they got to have the will to stay with it, because I always tell those guys it's a couple months. And then it's really going to take off for you. And when that happens, it's great.
So maybe there's hope for me to still be good at lacrosse. Because I'll bring all the positivity in the world to you, Coach. All right, let's talk about games coming up this week. We've got Poway, Coronado.
Yep.
Tell me your thoughts on this.
Poway's coming off that loss that we talked about. Coronado's been rolling pretty good, bunch of close games. And, I think it's going to be one of those games. Last year, Poway, first game of the year, sort of embarrassed Coronado, and I know that one resonated with the team and the coaches. So I think this one will be a little bit more spirited, a little bit more challenged, and it should be a good game. It's at Coronado. Last year was at Poway. So I think it's going to be one of those exciting games that, comes down to the end, and whoever executes in the end will win.
Now, so far in the season, we've seen Coronado have a couple of games with a lot of shot attempts,
Yep.
Especially that Cathedral game early in the season. Is that something we're going to see again here? Is that their key to beating Poway?
Well, I think in this case it'll be decided at the face-off X. And last year, I don't think Coronado fared so well at the face-off X, and that resulted in a lot of Poway shots and not a lot of Coronado shots. So I think, depending how that goes, which I think will be a little closer this year, I think both teams are going to take a lot of shots.
Let's talk about our next guys game, Westview versus Bishops. Now, this is a pair of teams who are in the top 10, but still somewhat unproven, if you will. They're new to this. We are up on this upper echelon now. How do you see this one going down?
I think this is an interesting one. I take some interest in this because Bishops is our opponent the next week, on Monday of next week. So, I've seen we played Westview. I haven't seen Bishops play yet. They had 2 big 1-goal wins up in Northern California recently. So I think, it's going to be one of those close, low-scoring games that we've seen from some of the big teams, and I think it's going to be a good game.
This game really will maybe be a big litmus test for which one of these teams will have the lasting power throughout the rest of the season. You can probably put a lot of stock in whoever wins this one will come out with a lot of momentum, a lot of mentality of, hey, we're gonna put this together.
It certainly makes a case for who should be in the open division. Bishops is, they graduated a bunch of guys, and they're kind of teeter between open and Division One, and I think this will help determine that.
And that's right, because we can start to talk about that a little bit now that we're around the halfway mark of the season. We're kind of starting to peek into the back stretch league games, and so you start looking at some of these bigger matchups and go, oh, that's not just a fun early season matchup. That's a legitimate game that's got some big-time impact. Switching over to the girls' side, but let's stay at Westview. Westview, Rancho Bernardo is coming up this week. Now, the Westview girls not quite having the success that the Westview guys having this year. RB, always a consistently good team. What are you looking for in this one?
Well, RB's, the girls program has been strong there a really long time, and I think that's, again, one of these cases where you have, a younger girls program like Westview that's trying to make a case to be an open division type team and beat some ranked teams, and I think you'll see some spirit out of the Westview side, and if Rancho Bernardo takes them lightly, that game could get interesting.
That would also be one of those games, though, that you'd maybe walk away if you're Westview with a 2 or 3 point loss going, hey, we didn't really, we got some positives to take away from this game because RB is that classical powerhouse. So those are the games to check out. Those are our game balls for the week. Thank you very much, Coach. You've got a busy practice to go get to. There's a girls game going on out behind us that I might go watch. As always, tweet us, let us know if there's anything we need to go check out. And one final note, folks, we now have an app. San Diego Prep Insider has an app. So go ahead, download that onto your phone, and you'll get a little push notification every time we put out a new podcast every Tuesday. So
I downloaded it today.
Exactly. I've already called my mom, and I bought my grandmom an iPhone so she could download it. All sorts of goodness. Folks, thank you very much for watching. This Wednesday on Fox Sports at 9 o'clock. Check it out for The Building Character with the Hoover team, and we will be back next week. Thank you very much, sports fans.